welcome back to another Fabulous Show. I'm Jacob, J Books Corner, and today we're here to talk about my last final 5-star video of 2023. So the series will come back for 2024. You guys liked it mostly, didn't really care for the first episode, but my question to you before we jump into the new year, and I'll ask again at the very end of this video, but I want to get to the audience right ahead. How do you want me to do it next year? Do you want me to do 2 books like I've been doing for these last 2 segments? Are you liking the 1 book? Because it didn't really seem like that one vibed, so I'm thinking 2 books is better than 1. If that's the case, do you want me to do 6 5-star choices next year so we can do 2 books per video? I'll put them in the months and segments and stuff. Let me know in the comments down below what you prefer. That way I know going into the new year. Also, do you want spoilers if spoilers are needed? That's really important for me to know, just in case I need to add it at the very end. It'll be after the whole non-spoilery thoughts and stuff. There are no spoilers in this video. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the TBR, because TBR did change a little, but that's okay. So the first book I'm going to jump into in this video, we're going to read A Twisted Love Story by Samantha Downing. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year due to it's a new Samantha Downing release. And even though Samantha Downing has not hit slam dunk after slam dunk as I was hoping, she's still a very promising author that I'm excited to see move in the future. Then we move over to Charming Young Man by Elliot Schaefer. This is obviously by the author who wrote my favorite book of last year, which is The Darkness Outside of Us. This one is a bit different, and I'll explain why in its segment. There are chapter titles linked down below in case you want to watch one or the other. Doesn't really matter. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into Jacob, who read these books in the past. Alright, I'm going to start the first update for this book. What is this book called? I can't remember. By Samantha Downing. It's right here. Get moral story. This is the first book I'm reading for my 5-star prediction vlog. So this one follows 2 people who are in off and on again relationship. They've been in one for the better half of like 5 or 6 years now, and they drive each other crazy and they do crazy things. So the actual inciting incident for the story, it follows them and a few other characters. One of those people being Brianna, I think is how you pronounce her name, and she works at the office of the dude. Okay, the one, she ends up getting assaulted and stabbing a guy, and that's really what kicks this story off. I'm to the point where like the start of the kick has happened, right? I'm really curious to see where it goes, but I'm not loving it. I'm not gonna lie. I just don't know. Like, I'm getting a little nervous here for Samantha Downing and me relationship as an author, you know, to a consumer, because this is another one of her books. Like, she wrote My Lovely Wife, which we all enjoyed. It's on my bookshelf somewhere if I don't know where it's at, and most of us really cared for that novel. And then in my opinion, she wrote the masterpiece that is He Started. A lot of people didn't like that, and so I think she felt like she needed to go back to these domestics. And sure, this one's a little bit more crazier. They're doing a little bit more crazy stuff than they were in like My Lovely Wife. Like, it's almost as if My Lovely Wife's like 3rd act was like a whole book. That's kind of the vibes. And then she wrote the teacher one, and I felt like the teacher one was so like mediocre. And so I don't know why I picked this one to be of like a 5-star prediction, or why I'm centering this video around it, as I shouldn't be, but we're doing it. At this very moment in time, it feels like a 2.5 to a 3. But we'll see if that changes as the book progresses. I normally do know within the first half, in which we're not there yet. The halfway point has not happened, so maybe there's more crazy stuff that's gonna be like, oh my god, this is a perfect read. You just have to bear with it. The beginning is bad. We'll see as we continue on. Alright, I'm 75% into this book. I think that's how it's called. So essentially, they introduced a plot point, like I said, about the midpoint. And as soon as that plot point was introduced, I figured out why all these characters are running around together, why they're connected. And as I'm reading the book, they're slowly revealing how each of these things are connected, who's connected to what, and so forth and so forth. And I'm just really like frustrated with the book. I'm really annoyed with the book. I wanted so much more from this. I don't want to say you should go into an author's like novel and like have high expectations, right? These are 5-star predictions. These are books that I thought were gonna be my favorites of the year. So like I did put that pressure, but also when I made this video originally, or when I did the first one, I can't remember which one I did for one of them, I was like, it's really bold of me to think these are going to be my 5-star predictions, because there's no way that these would be my 5-star predictions because of the track. One, the only book I've ever given Samantha Downing a 5 stars, He Started, which is nothing like any of her other writing. So me thinking that this book, which with the cover and things, is going to be much more on the lines of a traditional domestic thriller, under the lines of like My Lovely Life, which I really enjoyed, and that really did put me on the pathway to follow Samantha Downing as a career, as you know, as she gets more and more into her career. I soon realized that she wasn't going to write anything else like he started it. Mostly maybe because it wasn't as big as a hit as My Lovely Life or something along those lines, and so she wrote For Your Own Good, which I did not like. I didn't care for it really, like, at all. I felt like it was kind of a waste of time to read, and this also feels like kind of a waste of time. This reminds me a lot of Sarah Peckin and Grady Hendrix. Not Grady Hendrix, the other person. You know, the books, I can't think what they're called. The one about the therapist. It feels very much more on the lines of those materials than her usual, which is really interesting to me because I mean there's like 6 of those, like those 2 people have co-written 6 different domestic thrillers, so like yeah, I think logically speaking there is a marketplace for it. I just don't know. I don't love it. I don't love it really, like, at all. I don't love the characters. I don't love the actions. I don't love being in this mindset of a very toxic romance. Like, a part of me is like, maybe there's like a purpose that she wrote this particular story for this particular book, and as it's more divulging into a typical thriller, one that you can see every twist coming from like a mile away, I'm just bored. I'm just really bored, and so we're landing on like a 2 right now. That's the lowest I've ever written, I think, rated any of her books, which is not good, and she definitely will not make the list for next year. I'm still gonna be excited for the next Samantha Downing. I think she's already announced it for her, whatever her 5th book is. I will still be excited. I will still read it. I just probably won't document it like I've been documenting these ones, just because this is such a big disappointment in my regard. A lot of people that I normally align with in this genre did not like this, and so I've been pushing it off for several months now, and so the only thing that could bump this up to a 3, I don't think it can go any higher. I probably wouldn't give anything any higher than 3, would be the ending, and if there's like any like interesting like last minute twist. But I'm always a big believer the whole entire journey for me has to be amazing, especially for a thriller. It cannot just be the last 4 pages. So it needs to be good the whole way through. So I don't recommend, but I will finish it and tell you how I feel in the next clip. Hello, I want to come here and close out the vlog for this book. I can never remember what it's called. That's okay. This is by far my least favorite Samantha Downing book I have ever read. I could not tell you a single thing that happened in it. I could not tell you. It's been like 2 days since I finished it. The ending didn't make a big splash for me. We're landing on a solid 2 here. This is probably the least favorite book, one of my biggest disappointments of the year. Once again, I put this book under such pressure on, I shouldn't have done it, is the moral of the story. Because like, even though he started it is like an amazing thriller to me, which I've explained so many times, so we're not going to get into that conversation today. Moral of the story here, you understand why I shouldn't have read this book. But yeah, this I don't recommend. I don't even think it's worth your time. I'm going to be honest with you, this is the first book of hers that I don't think is worth your time. I couldn't really find any like regarding quality, because the writing is pretty much the same. Her style is very, very much Samantha Downing style, you know what I mean? And so like you could go read a different one of hers and have better time, in my opinion. This is by far her worst book she's written yet. Very sorry about that, Samantha. I love you. I will pick up your next book, so you still have a customer. It's just, what was that? Okay. Moving on. So the second book that I ended up choosing, so we chose Charming Young Man by Elliot Schaefer. This is the same person who wrote The Darkness Outside of Us, which was my favorite book of the year of last year. And so I figured this would be a pretty good slam dunk, and any book that is my #1 book of the year prior, if it's not part of a bigger series or other authors I've ever read from, it normally automatically gets put into a 5-star prediction for their next big release in the same realm of like genre and or audience. This is still YA, it's still romance, yet the difference here, this takes place in the 1800s. So we have our main character, I could not tell you his name, it's a French name, very sorry, but it's just the honest truth, who is in Paris. He is on a scholarship for being, he's like the next Mozart is essentially what he is, and he's going around to all these different families trying to get them to pay for the rest of his schooling, because he started schooling early, and so he still has 1 more year before basically the school will pay for him and start his career for him. That's essentially what the school is going to end up doing. He ends up meeting a boy named Marcel, or Maurice, it's Maurice, and this boy ends up taking him into the knighthood of Paris that he's never been into after meeting him at a party or getting ready to go into a party. I'm halfway through the book at this point in time. 30% in, I was like, this is a 5-star. About halfway through the book, I'm like, I don't know if it's a direct 5-star, but it's teetering between like a 4 and a 5. Somewhere in there, for sure. I would recommend it 110% at this point, 50%. I'm curious to see where this is going to go. He ends up, where I'm at in the story without giving any spoilers, because this the whole point is not give you spoilers, whatever. He just ventured into a deal with a man that does seem to be kind of shady, but also seems to be less shady than a different man that he had already like entered into a thing. Also, I think it would have been much more of a fascinating read. Maybe this is just me not liking to hear about bigotry. I don't know. I love to live in the Schitt's Creek world of life where like homophobia doesn't exist, and if you're in a gay relationship, you're in a gay relationship. Some people will be like, but dude, this is like in 1830 or 1812 or something like that. Like, of course there's bigotry. Of course they're gonna say, you know, if you kiss a man or you're in love with a man, it's gonna be you're going to hell or whatever it might be. They use all the words. Is essentially what's in here. And like, yeah, I get that and I understand that, and I really do think all the moments are so sweet. There's this moment where he's describing a character, our main character is describing someone, and he's describing every inch of them, like their eyes, their mouth, but he's doing it in such a beautiful writing, Elliot Schaefer is, that it's just so transfixed, and it's just so wonderfully written that like it makes up for the bigotry, because obviously that's the point. You're like, he's trying to show us this is what the world liked, but we also know, like, I mean, for instance, I know It's a Fantastical World, Chain of Gold, and those type of books behind me, those are set in 1800s, and there's obviously gay characters running around the Shadowhunters like abundant, which is amazing. And with that, you know, with that being said, like, they show us the nightlife of that world, of where queer characters do have a place to go. You just have to figure out that place, and that's a big part of the story as well, is figuring out that group. They just got introduced to a character who I think probably wants to be trans, or maybe is a lesbian, but it can't like embrace that side of her, and so she's dressing up like a man. That was like one of the storylines that just got introduced, and I don't know, I'm really liking that part of it. And I'm also really enjoying the fact that our main character isn't like, oh my god, this is happening, this is horrible, I can't believe this is happening. No, he's more like, the more of the question of like, this is bad, I shouldn't be feeling these ways towards, like I do towards other men, but I feel like I've always felt this way. I've never felt this way towards a woman, and so I feel like it's more nuanced and a more beautiful conversation. I don't think a lot of people are going to like that aspect of the book, though, if I'm going to be honest with you. I really think that's a particular taste, and it's definitely my particular taste. Like, I would have thought it'd be more interesting to take like a Bridgerton angle towards this, not like the mystery and the, like, not the drama and shit like that, but like having him live in a world like it's like an alternate reality type of world in the 1800s, of where, you know, there are gay and bisexual and like straight characters unbuzzed, and there's like no limitation to them, and it's not like this like negative thing, and he's trying essentially to figure out the next suitor for him and like that type of thing. And let me know if there's like a historical romance book similar to that, because I would like to read that book. Let me know in the comments down below. He's Daphne in the Bridgerton situation, but the world accepts the fact that he's hunting for like a man. Is essentially like what I'm looking for. I don't want it to be like a subplot of where someone's coming at him for being homophobia or like whatever it might be. I don't want that. I just want it to be like a very cute, lovely story that could be smutty. I'd be interested in the smutty angle. For that being said, this book is quite steamy. It is a little graphic. I do think it's still a YA novel, but I also thought like the darkness outside of us was so horny. So I think it's also coming with the Elliot Schaefer-ness of writing, which I adore. So I'll tell you guys when I finish the book and with my final updates, and then we can close out this video. Hello! I want to come here and give you guys the final update for Charming Young Man. The first thing, I think the most important thing before I jump into this book, I had no idea this is based on a true story. The author, I can't think of his name, Schaefer or something, I can't think of what his first name is, Elliot Schaefer, in the back of the book, he had an author's note that basically said that when he was 20, he ended up, this is no spoilers, I'm not going to tell you like what happens in the book. When he was 20, he ends up moving away from where he was at to go live with his boyfriend. They ended up breaking up like 4 days later. He had no place to go, so he ended up going to Seattle or Chicago and staying with a friend there for a period of time. And part of that period of time, because he wasn't really working, he ended up going around and looking at art museums and finding this painter who ended up referencing the pianist who the book is based on. I know it's a bit confusing, but I had no idea, and it does explain some things here. With that being said, I really didn't like the ending. I felt like the build-up was great, but I didn't think there was enough time, one, to percolate into that build-up, like to let it rest with the audience, but also I didn't really find the ending to be super believable. And knowing that there are some creative liberties obviously taken because this person's life wasn't really documented. There's letters and other things that are documented and things are around him that are documented, but him himself is basically a mystery from what I understand, from what, you know, Elliot had talked about in the author's note. I have to wonder if the ending was also something he would hope that would have happened. My thing here is, all I'm going to say is that I really enjoyed the characters and I really enjoyed the writing, and obviously I'll read more from this author for sure. This was like a 4.25. It wasn't a bad book. I would actually really recommend it. I would say the main character has a lot of different suitors throughout the book, and the suitor that he ends up with is not a bad suitor, and there is definite chemistry between these two characters. It's just a very limited amount of screen time that they're together. together. And I think that's where it rubbed me the wrong way. Not rubbed me the wrong way, I just didn't enjoy it in the end because there's other characters that you had more screen time with that sure, I don't think I would want them together, like them as a pairing at the end. I just think the final pairing, we could have had more time really building it up and really having a good time with it by starting the book a little bit early. I feel like if we would have started the book, maybe, I'm not entirely sure, but I think the starting point is the problem, at least for me. I also understand why the starting point is there because this book is all about discovery and also like sexual orientation discovery and a bunch of other stuff in the 1800s. And so I do understand why there is a certain point where the book does begin because of some of these things. And so I don't even know if my answer would be better, but I think a little bit of build up would have been nice, possibly in the future. That's not to spoil anything. There's a lot of characters that this person runs into that they have sexual chemistry with. So do not worry, no spoilers abroad. I do think The Darkness Outside of Us was a step better. Then again, maybe some people think the opposite. So my own personal opinion. The outro, let's quickly talk about the 2 books that I read. And once again, ask you that question again to remind you, please do list in the comments down below how you want me to do next year. Do you guys like the 1 book a video for the 5-star, choosing 5 books? Because like 5, you know, that makes a lot of sense. But I can understand why people would want to do like a 6th thing. So let me know in the comments down below. That's very important for me, how you want me to do next year's segment of this, because I had a lot of fun. We had 1 5-star overall, and we're going to talk about the overall wrap up of this series for season 1 for the 5-star predictions. So in season 1, I read a grand total, obviously, of 5 books. Those books are as following. We have Don't Fear the Reaper, which came in at a 5-star. It started off so strong. Then I read a Taylor Adams, which is called The Last Word, which I think I rated a 4.25 stars. So that was really close, but it didn't hit the mark fully. Then I read Cassandra Claus Mermaid one, and whatever the rating is over there is what I rated it. It's between like a 3.75 and like a 4.5. I don't remember exactly, and it really depends on the day when I think back to this book. Then in this video, as you guys saw, I read A Twisted Love Story by Samantha Downing, and I gave it a 2. And then I read Charming Young Man, which I gave a 4. And I think maybe it was like a 4.25, whatever that number exactly is. Will be right here. Now you think I should know that, but that was still quite a few days ago. That was like 6 or 7 books ago, so that's the reason why. Now, out of all of this, most of them are 4s, which means the series does get to move on to season 2, and that is the parameter for 2025. If 2024, we pick out 6 books, and I only end up liking, like, I have to like more than, I'm gonna say half, so I have to have like 4 books, but I would hope, I mean, this is all a guessing game, right? But I'd hope that at least more than one of them is a 5-star. Most of them are 4s, and so like I'm gonna take the one where I can find the win. Samantha Downing was the only one, and to be fair, betting on Samantha Downing maybe was the problem. I don't know. I talked about throughout this entire video is that the books I chose were not very good solid picks, and so I think going into the new year, I have a more valid plan to pick the more solid picks. I do think I'm gonna put 1 or 2 like outliers, either an author I've never read from that I think the story could be really good or really compelling and things like that, and just because I think it's fun. That's, you know, how a challenge goes, and I am making it into a challenge. This is a 5-star prediction challenge. So let me know how you guys liked season 1. I really enjoyed it. I'll link the playlist down below in case you guys are interested in checking it out. Please go give Don't Fear the Reaper some love. It needs some love. You guys really liked episode 2 of this, and obviously we have episode 3. So let me know in the comments down below how you guys want me to do this next time, and I'm excited to continue onwards. But that being said, did you have any 5-star predictions, and how did they go throughout the year? I love knowing in the comments down below, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.